all were once those ages, that pure, that sweet, that innocent time. And somewhere along the way, we grew up to adulthood, and that sort of ego judgmental mind really took over. And it's like, sometimes the things that we say to ourselves, would you say it to that little girl? No way. So I invite you, during our talk today, even further than that, to start viewing your body as this little girl. You can pull up a picture of yourself and view that consistently. And then when you start any of that negative self-talk around your body, would you talk to that little girl that way?
My favorite part of Amber's talk was when she shared memories of her childhood and showed us old photographs of her, because it made her really relatable.
She's just glowing, and she brings so much energy to the audience and really engages them in a talk that's so kind of familiar and brings this fresh, new look at it, and really inspires all the women around her and really excites all the women around her to really get excited and love their bodies.
I think I really liked that Amber's talk. It was really about women's bodies, but she really integrated her own experience, because it's easy to preach and try and get people to build their self-confidence, but when you have that personal element, it really helps a lot. So I'm glad she brought that in.
I grew up in a single-parent home in Charleston, West Virginia, very small town, and somewhere along the way I became really obsessed with having the perfect body. I thought that if I were taller and if I were thinner and if I had larger breasts and no cellulite and no unwanted body hair, that my life would be amazing. And so I set out on the path to have that, to experience that at any cost.
I want to know, how many of you have ever wished your body were different? Yeah, I hear you. I thought that for 30 years of my life, so much so, in fact, that by the time I was living my dream of working on Broadway, you'd think I'd be celebrating my face off, but I wasn't.
I'm usually around 130, 135 pounds. Not heavy, but in the entertainment industry, it's very heavy. I only loved and accepted my body when I was 116 pounds. But my body didn't want to be that. So the only way I could make that happen was to torture her. So what I started to look at was, I have a relationship with my body. We don't think about relationships in that sense, right? We think usually of a significant other. But this thing, the shell that we're in, we have a relationship with it. So I started to look at my relationship to food, my relationship to exercise, my relationship to joy, my relationship to my state of thinking. And I started to really explore those and just observe them without judging them. And that's when things really started to shift for me.
And today, in our society today, we're all, or maybe, I hope a lot of us are familiar with the concept that thoughts have energy, right? That we are co-creators. They're creating. We're creating with spirit, whatever you want to call it. So, I'm going to write down some stuff here. So, if thoughts have energy, what you think is creating your feelings, how you feel, right? And then what you're feeling about yourself, about your life, is creating your actions, what you do, your behaviors, and then your actions are creating your results, right? So let's think about that for a second. So if what I'm thinking is, I wish my body were different, I don't like my body, what kind of feelings do you think you're feeling?
Shame.
Shame. Shame's a biggie. Sad. What else?
Paranoid.
Paranoid. Right? Despair, disappointment, depressed. And really take those on for a second. Like, when I think about what it feels like to feel shame and guilt, I immediately start to contract. I want to hide. So I'm walking through life kind of hiding. So then if that's my MO, going through life, what kind of actions do you think I'm taking? What was that?
Zero.
Inaction. Anybody else? Hiding. Reactive versus proactive. How about, if it's specific to body, how about overeating, undereating, overexercising, underexercising, criticizing, blaming, right? I call those punishing actions. And then the result is, I'm not taking care of myself. And the cycle continues.
How do you know something is wrong with your body? How do you know that? You're comparing it to something. What are you comparing it to?
What we've been taught.
What you've been taught, the ideal.
What we see.
What you see
out there.
Exactly. All of those things. What I coined that, the perspective that I use is perfect body. And what's fascinating about the perfect body perspective is that it's different for every single one of us.
Here's the thing, you get two messages. When you look at the cover of a magazine, you get two messages. The first is, oh, this is what's beautiful in our society. This is what we deem beautiful. Great, every society has sort of a standard. But the second is a little bit more subtle, and it's that you're not good enough. And the reason I say that is because these women weren't good enough. Jennifer Garner, Jennifer Aniston, Beyonce, they showed up that day, they weren't good enough, they had to be retouched. So if they aren't good enough, and they're the ones that the media is saying we need to look like, then how could we possibly ever be good enough?
Very clearly we're affected by the media and advertising, so much so that we don't even realize that we are. We're so oversaturated by it. So I think this is a really good and healthy check.
You can't just say, I'm gonna work out as hard as I can because I want to change this part of my body. You gotta say, I love my body, it's beautiful, and I want to take care of it, and that's why I want to work out, and that's why I want to eat healthy, because my body is mine, and it's special, and it's amazing, and I need to take care of it, and that's why I want to do these things. And it's not that I don't like my body and want to change it, it's that I love it, and I want to make it the best it can be.
Accept what's real. How about that? That's Jennifer Garner, that's Jennifer Aniston, and that's Beyonce. But that ain't on the cover of the magazine. Right? What's so wrong with accepting what's real? So, for me, that was the biggest freeing moment. When I actually realized, wait, I'm 30 years old, I'm never going to be taller. So, right, I mean, I know it sounds silly and it's laughable, but I really genuinely believed that that was like the link to beauty for me. And so when I held on to that vision that was completely unattainable, the only option I had was to be a failure. This body had no other option but to fail. And that's how we live our lives. We build all this shame up. Oh my God, my size 8 jeans don't fit anymore. What am I gonna do? Oh my God, I stepped on the scale and I'm 10 pounds heavier. And it's like failure, 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 right? And then we're walking around with all this weight, emotional weight. So if we can get to that point where we don't carry shame, and the way to do that is to take action. You accept where you are. Okay, I accept that I went through that really horrible breakup and I found comfort in Ben & Jerry's for a year and I put on 20 pounds. I accept that. Now I'm going to take action. Now I'm going to take action. Now, I don't want you to think I'm bypassing the emotional, like the deeper work that goes into things, because I'm not. I do think it's important to look at your judgments, to practice self-forgiveness, to embrace gratitude, to really do that deeper work. But a lot of times we can get lost in the funk when really it's like, okay, so what? So yeah, so I put on 20 pounds. Well, what am I going to do about it? Well, I can choose to continue to do what I was doing, or I can get right back to the gym. I can change my eating habits. I can take better care of this thing that is my partner in life. You may think that your partner is your partner. That ain't the case. This is your partner. This is the only thing that is with you 24/7, your entire existence on this planet. Your body is your partner.
What she said really has some value to it. So I think my self-esteem has definitely risen since I've heard her speak.
The part I think I appreciated the most was the actual tools that Amber gave us to put it into practice. So it's not some like ethereal good idea, but it's like tonight I can go home and I can place my hands in my belly and just say I'm sorry and I love you.
After the talk, I kind of thought of my body as more of like a part of me and not like something separate, I guess. Like my body was just as much a part of me as like my personality. And not in like a superficial way, but just like a take care of yourself and like love yourself.
My body is my own body, and what other people think about it doesn't really matter as long as I'm happy.
The perfect body is not attainable. When I pictured it in my head, it looked so good, but it's
it's just not possible. I have to accept what I have now.
When you shift your perspective, it's going to change everything else, sort of like the catalyst. It's a whole shift in paradigm.